Hey, Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth role-playing fans. Welcome back. Roman Daisel here. We're going to be doing another Compendium of Lords of Middle-earth, Volume 3. We're going to be looking at Hobbits, Dwarves, Ents, Orcs, and Trolls. This is number 8004 of the series. And this one was created in 1989. So 2 years after the Manus races. This was an excellent book. I probably got this from Imperial Hobbies, which is now unfortunately closed thanks to the CCP virus pandemic. And let's see what we got here. We got cover art by Angus McBride, scene in the Chamber of Records there by Balin's Tomb. Company of the Ring is holding off the Orcs and the Troll. Gotta love that scene. It's an excellent scene in the movie. Peter Jackson's version isn't bad, though the goblins should have been orcs and the troll never actually broke through. But oh well. It was pretty cool in the movie. Alright. So I've read this book a lot, you can tell. It's starting to look its age. Now we go through the usual stuff that I never bother with. So it starts out with hobbits. It goes into the hobbit history, their nature, the three clans of hobbits, the Harfoot, Falahide, and Stewards. If you have a current edition of Lord of the Rings, you read the foreword, the prelude, you'll learn all about hobbits and the three tribes, so to speak. Now it gives a lot of description of their physical characteristics, culture, society, craftsmanship, warcraft, magic, and religion. It gives a lot of details. But again, there's nothing you can't find in any of Tolkien's work. They didn't really elaborate on anything outside that. And then we got a Hobbitish character glossary. Ben Dorbras Took, who was the biggest hobbit of his day until Merry and Pippin decided to drink some Ent draughts and got bigger. Bilbo Baggins. Blanco, who was one of the founders of the Shire. Drogo, Nimblefinger's Brace Girl, who I believe is a made-up character, one of the few for hobbits. Eleanor Gamgee, Frodo Baggins. So it's got all their characteristics depending on their importance. Gollum is in here. Isengrim Took, Lobelia, Brace Girl, Sackville Baggins, Lotho, Marcho, who's the other founder of the Shire. Meriadoc, Paladin Took, who was Pippin's father, and then we have Peregrine, Pippin, and then Samwise. So it gives you all the major ones. Tobold Hornblower, who started smoking pot. Tolman Cotton. And it gives you descriptions of everything. It's the same as the other books. There's nothing different here. And you go through a Hobbitish short description. Most of these are found inside Lord of the Rings. No big surprises. And I'm going to go quickly through this because the hobbits aren't really interesting. Drontius Took, who's the old Took, until Bilbo beat him. He was the oldest Took. It's got the hobbits from Bree as well, and it's an interesting read. Like I didn't care too much. I don't read this section too much, but this is my favorite section, the dwarves. Tolkien spent a lot of time talking about the dwarves and the seven tribes, but he never actually went through too many of the different tribes. And he mentioned how the seven tribes got together and fought the war of the orcs and dwarves in the Misty Mountains. But didn't tell where they all came from. Now, I know from the Silmarillion, two of those tribes were in the Blue Mountains, Eriador, and fought in the War of Wrath. They were in the wars of the Silmarils with Morgoth. They were valuable allies of the elves. Unfortunately, treachery with one of the tribes, with King Thingol, over the Silmaril and the Noglamir, ended a lot of relationships and had a lot of acriminations afterwards. But then you have Durin's folk, which is in Khazad-dûm, Moria. So it gives a history of Durin's folk. It gives Belagos and Nogrod, the origin of the strife between the dwarves and the Sindar, which is the Thingol story in the Silmarillion. The golden years of the Second Age with Moria. Migration of Thranduil's elves. Yep, Lord of the Gifts and the Rings of Power. So Sauron, when the Rings of Power were given, Sauron, in his war with the elves in the Second Age, took back 7 Rings of Power and gave them to the dwarves. Now Durin might have received his from Celebrimbor, but definitely Sauron gave the other 6 Rings of Power to dwarf kings. Did he give them to the dwarves of the Blue Mountains that were still there? We don't know. So the war, the naming of Moria, the fate of the 7 rings, and the coming of the Balrog. The Tale of Thrar, the war against Azog, and Orcs, loss of Durin's ring, Thorin's quest, Balin and the return to Moria, and the end of the Third Age. So basically it deals mostly with Durin's folk. And here they give you a migration. This is totally a merp fabrication, but it makes sense. You have the 2 tribes in the Blue Mountains. They're still there in the Third Age, though much diminished, because Belegrost and Nogrod collapsed after the War of Wrath. Many dwarves from the Blue Mountains fled to Moria, so they're all scattered too, mostly. They're but a fraction of what they once were. Durin's folk was scattered after Moria, though many of them are in the Lonely Mountain now. The Iron Hills. Then it gives you the name of them. So you got Durin's folk, the Lor's people, Bavor's folk, Sununafel's journey, I don't know what that is, some side story. Druin's folk, Baron's folk, Dwalin's people, and Thrar's people. So it does go through the dwarves of Belegrost and Nogrod, the struggle of the Noglamir, which can be found in the Silmarillion. Thelor's folk, the 5th, and it talks about their migration patterns from Mount Gundabad down to the mountains of Rune into the Oricani in the arid Harmel. So they're more of a central dwarven colonies. Then we have the founding of Rurik. So 2 tribes, Durin the Proud and Baron the Scarred, migrate east to a place called Rurik. Rurik on this map is down here, these mountains. So those 2 tribes went to Rurik. Now this is where I think that the MERP creators, the MERP team, were going to make a Far Eastern campaign module. Because they went into a lot of detail about these 2 tribes in the east. The quest for the mirror, the coming of Muar, who was another Balrog, the conquest of Rurik. And doesn't really go into a lot of detail. It goes into a lot of detail of these ones. Then we go into dwarven nature, physical characters, manner, women, Khazdo language worship. Then it goes the Age of the Hammer, which is again Rurik. So I really believe the guys at MERP were really planning a Far Eastern campaign, or a series of them. Dwarven technology, Dwarven warcraft, again the importance of Durin's folk. Then we have a dwarf glossary. So characters to know with an asterisk are purely ice creations and are not noted in Tolkien's works. Those with a sword beside their name are illustrated in this work, okay? So we got Azaghal, Balin, Bally Stonehand, Far East. So they went and made a whole bunch of backstories with major characters. So somebody was going to make something big. Of course, you got Bifur, Bofur, Bomber, Dane the First, Dane the Second, Ironfoot, Durin the First, Fulla the Third, and Fulla the Fourth, which are again warriors in the Far East. Gimli, Nain the First, Nog Zigildun in Rurik. So again, more and more non-canon characters. Thorin the Second, there's Thorin Oakenshield. So you get some major characters there, and a lot are MERP creations. Then we go into the short description. You find there are more and more MERP characters. Many of them are in the Far East, like Bally Goldeneye, Bally of the Rash, Baron the North King, Boffer the Breathless, Burin the Faint, Druhar the Dawn Warrior, which I thought was a really cool name, Druin the Deranged, Druin the Proud. Also has guys that were in Moria, Floy, who was killed by an arrow, all the Durins, Glorin, Last King. Of course, we got Owen, Ori, Thrain, Thrain the First, Thrain the Second, Thrain the Wanderer, Thror, just so many of them. Tilly. So there's a lot of dwarves and a lot of made-up characters. Then you go into Petty-Dwarves. So Petty-Dwarves are mostly in the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. You really have to look them up. They are dwarves who committed crimes before the First Age and were banished, exiled from their homes in the Blue Mountains. That's what Petty-Dwarves are. And in exile, they were persecuted by elves who didn't know any better. So they became a very secretive race and slowly began to forget everything they knew as dwarves. But they created halls. Turin Turambar hid in the halls of the Petty-Dwarves in the First Age, but was betrayed by Mim. Ice created their own Petty-Dwarf kingdoms in both Rudar and the Aranvorn. So again, Brar is one of those. Ibn was one of those who's in those works. Kim, Miffley, who becomes a ghost in Rudar. So he's in the Hillman of the Trollshaws campaign. Mim, who was the one who betrayed Turin Turambar. He was later killed by Hurin, Turin's father. And then it gives a short description of all the lesser Petty-Dwarves. So they come from Raiders of Cardolan is where they're found. Many of them. and also Hillman of the Trollshaws. Those books. That was quite interesting. I like how they did that. Then we got the Umli. The Umli are half-dwarves. How that's possible, I don't know, but it's... And they have their own groups. Culture, appearance, outlook, and then it gives a culture. So they were also heading towards a northern book. A far northeastern book. So there was somebody on the ICE team that was getting ready to create a pretty awesome Eastern Middle-earth campaign modules. I don't know who it was and why they didn't finish it and release it. No idea. But these are all make-believe Umli characters. There's only 3 of them, so kind of sucks they never went that direction. Then we got Ents, the most interesting but boring people. Gives the whole Gardens of the Entwives, nature, same thing as the Dwarves and Hobbits. Entish characters, so you got Finbrethil, Treebeard's wife, Leaflock, Quickbeam, Sharpleaf, Skimbark, and Treebeard, of course. And then the minor ones that they have. Next up, they give the overview of the Orcs. Origin of the Orcs and their form, origin of the Uruk-hai, origin of the half-orcs. So, Orcs come from elves, corrupted. The Uruk-hai are just better Orcs, who are bred specifically by Sauron, taking the best Orcish stock and keeping it pure. It's just like you do with a dog breed. You want a certain type of characteristics, you find dogs of that type and breed them up. Half-orcs are those that were mixed with men, so that's more like Saruman doing that. Now they're trying to claim that Morgoth blended Orcish blood with the men that have men, trolls, or demons. I highly doubt that, but oh well. That's more Merp doing their own thing. The Orcish history, the Wars of Beleriand, the War of Wrath, Morgoth's lieutenant, which would be Sauron, and the Orcish nature, society, weapon craft, warcraft, magic, religion, Orcish tribes, Orcish language and dictionary, so it tries to give you a few words in Orcish. And then, of course, you got the Orcish character glossary, so Azog and Bolg. I hate the fact that Azog appears in Peter Jackson movies. Should have just been Bolg. Glorfimble, who invaded the Shire until Bandabras took him out. Grishnak, Gorbag, Zagduff, all the ones mentioned in the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. Storleg is a made-up one. Ulfthak, who's in Lord of the Rings. Ugluk. And then it also gives the ones from another shorter glossary. Some from Goblin Gate, Hillman of the Trollshaws, Ents of Fangorn, Mirkwood, Raiders of Cardolan, Forak for Lost Realms of Cardolan. So anything found in the Middle-earth campaign books and adventure modules is found in here, as well as in Unfinished Tales. Like Orthron. Orthron was one of 4 Orc Lords slain by the Aiden hero Tuor in the First Age. Alright, next up we got Trolls. Same idea, they go through the varieties, wild trolls. So you get wild trolls, cave trolls, forest trolls, hill trolls, snow trolls, stone trolls. Then it goes into the Olog-hai, which were the ones that you see in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields that can stand the sunlight. If it's a cloudy day, they can be out and about. Then it got half trolls. I don't know much about the half troll variations. That seems to be something that Iron Crown created. And then we go into the character glossary. So you got Bert Huggins, Gothmog. Now, this Gothmog is the one that's in Lord of the Rings, page 148, Return of the King. That Gothmog was the lieutenant of the Witch King and sent forces across the river. So they're saying Gothmog is a troll, probably an Olog-hai, or a half-troll. They claim he's a half-troll. Tolkien never mentions what Gothmog really is. Is he a troll? Is he an orc? What is he? Rogrog from Range to the North and Cardolan cover. He's a pretty cool, he's a badass troll. Ulthug is another one of the Eastern Slayers. Then we got short descriptions of other trolls from all over. So you got William Huggins, one of the ones in The Hobbit. Tom Huggins from, again, the Hobbit. And there we go. Then we got using these characters and whatnot. So that is that book. I love this book because I like dwarves, so I really love listening. I really love reading about the dwarves and the various tribes and their movements. The orcs, the trolls, the hobbits, the Ents, everything was great. It was a great read. Would I use it in a campaign? Again, only for the certain stats that they have. Would I use this book? But it makes me wonder if ICE was planning to go east, north and east. Because a lot of the dwarvish characters, non-canon characters, are from and the Umley, the half-dwarves, are all in this area here, up in here, and the eastern ones are in here. So it made me wonder if they were planning some campaign modules far east. It would have been awesome, and I wish they had gone in that direction and released it. But anyway, all you Middle Earth role playing fans out there, let me know if what you guys thought of this book. Do you have this book? Did you read it? Did you like it? Definitely makes for good reading on the toilet. I'll give it that. But anyway, put comments in the comments section. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Tell your friends. Don't forget to visit my other good friends, Lenny Blade, who does Dungeons and Thrashers, as well as Your Seat at the Table. They also do a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff as well. But until next time, this is Roman Daysel. I'm out of here.